think this topic is going to be kind of weird for me to really talk about because I don't necessarily think that really open about it in my regular life. My dad passed away back in 2012, October of 2012. I had been suffering for a really long time from hepatitis C. At the end, he passed away from liver cirrhosis, liver damage from hepatitis C. I think when you lose a loved one, you really never know how you're gonna act or how you're gonna react after they pass away. I don't even think that I was honestly really a person, and I threw myself into everything that I possibly could at the time because I just couldn't really deal with it. I remember my dad was just so sick that whole summer before I left. Talking to him was really difficult for me. It's hard, especially, I'm sure anyone will say this about their dad, when you watch somebody that has been a strong figure in your whole life just sort of becoming disabled by this disease. Especially my dad, because he was just always that strong force in my life, that presence, and like nothing ever got him down. When you see someone like that, like crying, certain someone in pain, or just sick, or just not the person that they are anymore, it really just, it's the most horrible thing to watch, is your loved one just kind of wither away before your eyes. Is just heartbreaking, honestly. My dad was diagnosed with hepatitis C probably, I think I was around like 9 or 10. I remember not really thinking much of it. I mean, I don't think our family really put too much emphasis on it because I don't think anyone's really that educated about hepatitis C. And as the years went on, like, he was fine. My dad was fine for years. Didn't even look sick, nothing. It was about like 14 or 15 when my dad started to get like sick. So we finally went to a hepatologist and shots to lower the viral load. For my dad, he needed to kind of just operate as if he didn't have it to go about his daily life, you know, because if we dwelled on this every day, I'm sure he wouldn't have been able to get by it. And I remember he lost some of his hair, he lost some weight, and he just really started to look sick from the shots, and he was miserable. And I think that's kind of when I started to register, like, this is a serious thing. Started acting like very strange. He was just very like out of it, not himself, and it was getting worse, and he was like forgetful, and he just seemed really out of it. Was when your liver starts to not be able to process the toxins in your body. You get this high ammonia level in your blood, and ammonia makes you forgetful, so you don't know what's going on. You forgetful, you forget the keys or forget this, but it wasn't like a big thing. But this first time when he just got kind of out of it, I guess my dad started getting to a point where he really didn't know what was happening. He started to get a little scared, and then he would always fight it, always, every time. At this point, we were sort of living in, I guess, this is when we started living in that mode where you're like, what's happening next? Like, something else bad is gonna happen next. And I know I can't really speak for my mom or my brother, but that's how it felt to me. So I was about 19, and it just started continuing to happen because at this point my dad's liver was really starting to just not be able to handle the everyday toxins of his body. This was the summer before he actually passed away. My dad just started, like, he had already been kind of acting weird. He had those little clues, and I don't think anyone really wanted to deal with it at that point. There's just nothing in comparison to watching someone not register what's going on. And I mean, my dad didn't even know who we were. He had no idea who my mom was, who I was, my brother was, and he genuinely was like terrified. Like, he was screaming, like he had no idea what was going on. And to see someone go through that, someone you love, that you've always viewed as a strong person, to see that is the most horrible, terrifying, sad thing I think that I'll probably ever go through in my life. Dad was in the hospital. It took several days to sort of bring him out of this because my dad at this point was so aggressive because he didn't know what was going on, that they had to drug him at the hospital because he had no idea what was going on. And you know, when you're in that stage, your reaction is to get violent. Well, of course, that's another toxin in his system. And towards the end, you know, like, parts of your body start retaining fluid. His feet were swollen, other parts of his body were swollen. His abdomen got incredibly swollen. You retain all this fluid because your liver is so cirrhosed at that point. and he was just miserable. I mean, after he came home from the hospital, he was just miserable. He was in so much pain from the sores that he got from going to the hospital and from just being swollen, and he was just, I think that was a point where he just kind of realized, like, this is it. He had to stop working. At that point, I had wanted to transfer to the college my brother was going to, and I got the acceptance letter, so at the end of that summer I was leaving. After my birthday, things started getting really bad, and my dad was hospitalized again and taken to the hospital in the city. He needed a liver transplant. At this point, he could no longer live with the liver that he had, and this was sort of our last option. I remember my brother and I went into the city from college. We took a bus, and I remember when they came in and told us that he wasn't a match and he wasn't going to get a liver. He was kind of out of it at this point all the time. He really didn't know what was going on. He wasn't lucid, really. I think that's when all of us kind of took a collective breath. It would have been so much more painful for us to watch him suffer through having to get this liver, and it may not have worked out, and we were just so tired of fighting at this point. All of us were just so tired. The bus ride was horrible because we knew that we were going home for my dad's funeral. Exhausting watching this person that you love slip away from you. You just get exhausted. It just wasn't, I felt like a robot. I didn't feel anything. Obviously I was upset and I broke down in private. Horrible. It was all consuming. I never knew what hepatitis C was, and I never knew that it could be this horrible, and that watching your loved one struggle with this is the most painful thing you'll ever go through in your life. I think that's why it's so important to educate about hepatitis C, so that people know what it is and what will happen and how to prevent it. We went into it blind. We had no idea. This is something that wasn't curable for my dad, and I know firsthand what it's like watching somebody die from liver disease. And I every single day wish my dad were here. I'm, able to finally talk about it now. The important thing is to educate about liver disease and let people know what can happen from liver disease. I know for me it was something that I just heard and never really knew about. I think that's where people need to change. People need to realize that this is a very serious thing. It's just as heartbreaking watching your loved one die from it. I know that my dad would be incredibly proud of me today, and I think that's one of the things that has inspired me to go on. After having to go through watching my dad pass away like that, and I just want to spread awareness about this horrible thing that people associate with drug use and prostitution, and people often stigmatize it, make it into this thing where people don't have any sympathy for you. And I think that's disgusting, because having watched somebody suffer from this, anyone that is suffering from a liver disease deserves all of our sympathy and all of our support. And education is the key. I think people need to be educated and know what these people are going through. It's horrible having lost somebody to hepatitis C, but there's hope out there. And if we're able to raise money and raise awareness, these are things that will hopefully not affect as many people anymore. And my hope is that one day there will be a cure that works for everyone, for every person that has hepatitis C, and no one else will have to go through this.